With Star Wars Jedi Survivor coming out in April, I decided to give the original game a shot after everyone kept saying it was really good. The game's published by EA, so everyone initially thought the game was going to be complete shit, but it actually wasn't. It was received really well, and everyone actually loved the game. There aren't any nasty microtransactions or anything, and the game was something that anyone can appreciate, whether you're a hardcore Star Wars fan or someone that just watches the movie because of peer pressure, like my bitch ass. I'm someone that watched the movies and some of the huge shows, and I was able to enjoy the game. There are a lot of things this game does well, but before I get into that, I just want to talk about something and rant about the shit that just pissed me off, and that's the map design and exploration. Now, I want to be clear and not start any confusion and say that the actual world is nice. All the planets are distinct with their environments, creatures, and enemies, and that's something that I'd give the game credit for. Like, Kashyyyk has its nice jungle vibe with its Venus flytraps, spiders, slugs and shit, while Bogano has these little Eevee looking like animals, along with the ugly ass bog rats. And then Dathomir has its Indiana Jones vibe with all these spirit enemies and shit. All the planets have their own thing going on, and that's something that I want to give the game credit for. But the issue, however, is exploring it. Now, the planets are pretty big with an exception of like Ilum and Bogano, so it takes a while for you to fully explore it. And it starts becoming an issue when you're returning to your ship, and once you start exploring on your own, once you return with more upgrades. So there might be an area that's blocked in red, but once you unlock a new ability, you'd want to go back to that area to explore it now that you're able to. But in order to get there again, you'd have to go through the entire map all over again. There are some shortcuts, but the amount of time they save is so minuscule, and sometimes they don't even do anything. They're called shortcuts when in reality, they're the only way out of an area, like the one over here in Dathomir. Once you're in the Upper Strangled Cliffs, there's only one way out, and that's through the shortcut, cause you can't go back through the Witch's Horn. So it technically is a shortcut to the Upper Strangled Cliffs from near the spawn area, but you don't have any shortcuts that take you into other areas in the middle of the planet. Like, once you get to the swamp, you have to go through the Witch's Horn, then up into the Upper Strangled Cliffs, and then you can get to the Mantis. So the shortcut is just a story path, not an actual shortcut unless you're heading back from spawn. But it's not just going back to the Mantis that's an issue, cause it's also heading back to planets to explore areas you couldn't before or for collectibles. Kashyyyk is the worst one of them all with the origin tree. After progressing through the map after the story mission, I found the bird and I'm like, hey, I might be able to fast travel to the top of the tree, but it just takes me back to this place that I can't pronounce without giving me any warning or confirmation as to where I'm traveling to. So I just had to progress through the map again and not fuck up again. But there was also a time when I progressed too far and I couldn't go back to the area I was just in to grab a collectible I missed unless I rode the bird again. And once I used it, I had to progress through the planet again. This shit pissed me off so much and it really ruins the game. It's just unnecessarily time consuming and frustrating. The game needed a fast travel, but for some reason, there isn't one. And on top of that, there also needed to be more shortcuts that actually helped, where you can actually go from one end of the map to another so that it limits the incentive of using a fast travel. They literally had an opportunity in Kashyyyk with the birds where they could have just let you choose where you wanted the bird to take you, but it just brought you back to the same location. The best thing that they could have done was to have meditation points just be fast travel points, so once you meditate you can choose other meditation points to fast travel to, so you don't have to go through an entire God of War journey again. It is actually more fun to clean the mess your pets made after taking a shit all over your furniture than having to constantly backtrack or progress through the map again. Now, some people might also add that the map doesn't help either, cause having to look at it might give people a migraine, and I would agree as well, depending on the area. In the beginning, trying to read the map gave me brain damage cause I'm kinda blind. Now, I'm not colorblind, but the fact that the area you're hovering over, the other areas on the same level as you, and the other areas on different levels of the map are all similar shades of blue is one of the worst decisions they've made. I think the holographic map is fine, but the similar shades of blue just make it so hard to read, and I don't understand why they didn't choose another color like black, gray or something. I do like how the orange indicates if it's explorable now and the red indicates if it's blocked, but the shades of blue for all the areas of the map is just a horrible choice, making it unnecessarily difficult to navigate. So yeah, that was my quick little rant on the map design and the exploration. As I'm editing this video, I completely forgot to talk about another thing that was dog shit, and that's the platforming. Now, it's not as bad as the exploration, but it's still wonky as shit. Like, look at this clip over here. So I missed the rope, missed the platform, I die. So I have to go down this ice slide again, but I can't even follow the path. It's just not letting me for whatever reason, and then I just die. Third attempt. I go down the slide. I can't move to the right and follow the path. And then I die again. And then on my fourth attempt, I actually finally make it. You see me like trying to forcefully push the camera, and I somehow make it to the next platform, but if you keep watching, I die again. I don't know why it's bullshit like this, but it just happens, and it happens multiple times. I have other clips of the platforming being bullshit, but I'm not gonna go through all of them. But yeah, I just want to talk about this real quick. Subscribe in the meantime if you think Cal has some shit in his pants while he's running. Let's get into what I liked, because despite everything I said, the game is actually good. And I'll start off with the story. Now, the way I feel about the story is a lot like how I feel about Spider-Man, with it being good for the type of story it's going for. It's its own story within the Star Wars universe after Order 66, and it does a good job of executing it. Cal is a Jedi in hiding, and once he activates his power to save his boy, the Empire feels sus of him and he eventually runs away to meet Cere and Grease. Now, Grease is just a goofy character, he's just a pilot and they use him for comic relief, but I think they miss in every situation. But it's not really an issue, cause it's not like certain elements of the plot are revolving around a joke or anything. When a game has a main story point revolving around a joke, that shit is more than often terrible, and this game didn't do any of that shit. It just had weak jokes sprinkled here and there. But Cal and Cere on the other hand were cool characters with their own arcs in this game. Cal has his whole thing with his childhood and his master, and then Cere has that thing with her Padawan, and they were both handled well, along with the villain. And also, by the way, I just realized Mark Hamill went from a lead Jedi to the Joker, and then Cameron Monaghan went from the Joker to a lead Jedi. It's completely unrelated, but I just wanted to mention it. But yeah, the characters were all nice, and the voice actors do a great job of portraying them. Now, there's not much else that I have to say about the story without getting into spoilers, so I'm gonna just talk about some major spoilers right now, cause I think the scene at the end I want to talk about is so good, to the point where I can't just be vague about it. So, if you want to avoid the ending, just skip to this part of the video over here, where I'll continue talking about the gameplay. Alright, so you've been warned. Now, the Darth Vader boss fight at the end was just phenomenal. The way they handled it was insane, and I'm glad it wasn't just some cheap cameo, cause its existence was earned. The game already did a good job establishing its own characters and everything, so the cameo didn't feel like cheap fan service. And on top of that, the scene was done perfectly. He's introduced with an ominous ass walk into the frame with his respirator in the background, and then he just stabs Trilla and pushes Cere away. And the boss fight itself was done perfectly. Cal doesn't even say some bullshit like, I can take you on, or any of that bullshit. He just straight up admits defeat before the fight. And once the fight actually starts, there's no health bar, you can't attack him, and you can't even breathe the same air as this motherfucker. He just fucks you up, and Cal just ends up running for his life, unable to turn back, while Vader just keeps deleting the platforms he runs across. Everything from the very beginning of that fight to the very end where Cal and Cere escape the planet was just insane, and something that I just had to talk about. This scene along with the Rogue One scene are the best scenes in showcasing how powerful this man is, and I have to give the game credit for that. Now, it is easier for games to showcase this type of moment cause it's you against Vader instead of an actor against Vader, but nonetheless, the scene and his inclusion were phenomenal. And the story overall was solid. There weren't any side missions either, which I'm fine with, cause I'd rather have no side quests than the generic ass, hey, my boyfriend accidentally ate some KFC, and now he's having suicidal thoughts. Can you find him and save him for me, please? Those types of missions need to go, and they're not in this game. But the thing is, even if those missions did exist in this game, I wouldn't mind it as much, cause the gameplay is good. So let's start talking about that. Now, everyone says that it's a copy and paste of a From Software game, and they're pretty much right. Is that a bad thing? No, cause it still feels like a Star Wars game. On top of the dodging, parry system, boss fights, rest points, and everything else it borrows from the From Software games, it uses its Star Wars property to make it feel like its own thing. Like, you've got the force powers where you can slow enemies down, a force push where you can push them, and force pull where you can pull them, and it's cool to see it tie in with the story when you relearn these powers with the flashback sequences during Cal's training with his master. But once you unlock all the abilities, moves, upgrades, and everything, the combat is hella satisfying. My favorite thing to do is just parry and deflect laser shots from stormtroopers. And once you attack them after a successful parry, you get a nice animation to go along with it. Now, I kinda fucked up during my playthrough when it came to the difficulty, cause I initially started as a Jedi Grandmaster, but I got to the goofy little Ogdo Bogdo and got my shit rocked, so I changed it to Jedi Knight and then just forgot to change it back or increase it to Jedi Master. A lot of people said that the game was hard, but because I played it on Jedi Knight, it was pretty easy, so I missed out on the challenge aspect of the game, especially with the boss fights. But despite that, the gameplay was still really fun. If you're into From Software type of games, I would give this game a shot, and the same thing if you're a Star Wars fan. The one thing From Software is miles better at is at designing the map, cause re-exploring and backtracking in this world is a chore. Another thing that I think they can improve on are the bosses, cause they're just reskinned regular enemies with a bigger health bar. Now, I'm not talking about the humans, but I'm talking about the creature boss fights. They are cool fights, but they're the same, and I think they could have been more unique. And I also wish that the red thing didn't exist, where it highlights if it's an unparryable attack, cause I feel like figuring that out on your own would have been a lot cooler, like how you would learn to fight a boss in a From Software game. But another thing that they could have done more with was the twin lightsabers, cause it's just one attack. It does do a great deal of damage, but I was expecting it to be similar to a From Software game, where you can use it single-handed or dual-handed. So I hope you can get more movesets with the different lightsaber modes in the next game. I know there are like different stances in the new game, so hopefully it's somehow tied with that. But the last thing I think they need to improve on with the gameplay is the collectibles. Now, you do get XP from them, but the cosmetics are deplorable. Like for the Mantis, you only see the exterior for like 10 minutes of the 20 hours of playtime. Might be an exaggeration, but the point still stands. And the ponchos are just ugly as fuck. The base suit looks way better with the noir colors in my opinion. And the worst cosmetics are the lightsaber customizations. You barely see the details of your lightsaber when you're in combat. The only thing that's worth changing is the actual color of the lightsaber, but the different colors are unlocked through playing the story. The material is probably the next best thing, but changing everything else is like customizing your pistol grip in Call of Duty. The only cosmetic that is somewhat worth collecting are the skins for BD1. I stuck with the all black one because it matched Cal's noir suit, but everything else I didn't give a shit about. So I think in their next game, they need to work on their cosmetics because going for the collectibles wasn't worth it. I just went for it because I already collected most of them and I was so close to the platinum, but if you don't care about trophies or anything, then there's no point at all. But although the cosmetics don't look good, the game itself looks really good. It came out in 2019 and it's still a good looking game. Cal does run like a dumbass, which might be the only thing that'd throw you off, but everything else is solid. So giving this game a final score, I'm gonna give it a good. It's solid in every aspect, minus the exploration having no fast travel or effective shortcuts. I think they need one for the next game cause otherwise playing through it would feel like a chore at times. And at the same time, give more of a reason to explore cause the cosmetics in this game were pretty dookie. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the game and if you guys are gonna get Jedi Survivor. I still gotta play God of War Ragnarok cause that's just been in my library for a while and I've been looking forward to it. So that's probably gonna be one of the next games I play after some of the other ones I've started but haven't yet finished, like Miles Morales. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Later.